Everyone, welcome back to another session. So this is our third session of the day, and I'd like to introduce Mathieu, who will be taking us through an introduction into QField's brand new plugin framework, which allows developers to add extra functionalities to QField using QML or JavaScript language. But without taking any more from Mathieu's presentation, Mathieu, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. So we will do a brief exploration of the possibilities of the QField plugin framework. Um, and hopefully we will have plenty of time at the end to have question and answers if people have this. First, a bit of introduction. My name is Mathieu. I have been for many years a QGIS core developer, initially focusing on UI UX improvements, and nowadays many more aspects of QGIS beyond that, although it is still my core passion, if you will. Roughly 4 years ago, I was approached by OpenGIS.ch, a Swiss company focusing on open source solutions. I'm sure many of you know this company. And they gave me a simple proposition, which is, do you want to spend some time improving QField user interface and user experience? I answered positively, and shortly after, I felt in love with, already at the time, what I saw was a really immense potential that QField is bringing to the broader QGIS community in terms of expanding the possibilities of what we can do onto new form devices. I am nowadays officially part of OpenGIS.ch, and I am the QField project leader. I'm the lead developer of QField. And today we will look at the recently added plugin framework, which was released, give or take, in mid-2024. Before looking at the plugin framework, I just want to give a bit of background as to why we ended up adding a plugin framework. So to begin with, QField, as on Android alone, we have nearly a little less than 400,000 active devices, and this does not count our users on iOS, Windows, Linux, etc. And so because QField itself is servicing so many users, not every single functionality can be justified to be added into QField itself. On top of which, QField is committed to delivering a lean user interface that is not getting in your way and that just leaves the space for your map to breathe and be the focus of attention. It also means that certain user experience or certain behaviors that might be useful for some niche needs are not a good fit to be bound to QField, the apps, by default. And the answer to that issue was to develop a plugin framework. The plugin framework allows us to fulfill the niche needs of the growing number of QField user out there. It also aligns with a core value promoted by OpenGIS and the QField project, which is freedom. Um, and what I mean by that is that anybody can now take the plugin framework, spend some time developing a plugin completely and independently, and this development will not be bound to a QField release, will not be bound to being greenlit by the QField project itself. It really empowers everybody, users and developers alike, to do as they please with QField in a completely free, as in beer, fashion. And this was like super important for us. And I think that what we deliver really, that freedom aspect really shine through. Um, Onto the plugins themselves, there are two types of QField plugins. The framework allows for app-wide plugins that are provided that the user enables the plugin. They will be active when launching QField until QField is terminated. Either the user left QField or the OS terminated the app that is in background. The alternative is a project plugin or project plugins, which are enabled while a specific project is opened. So let's say that I have a forestry project and I have a small plugin that is very specific to this project. I can bind the plugin to a project. That plugin will only enable itself for that project and then will disable when somebody opens a different project. I think it's maybe worth spending some time looking at the similarities and the differences between QField and QGIS plugins. So for QGIS, plugins are written in Python, and the GUI of the plugins will mostly rely on Qt widgets, either to interact with the QGIS application itself, which is built on top of Qt widgets, or to build extra like configuration dialogues or additional UI. On the QField side of things, the what powers the plugin is a combination. It is QML, and QML, for those who have never seen it before, will look a little bit weird. It's a bit of a mix of JavaScript, CSS, maybe a little bit of YAML. It is a strange language, but a very, very, very powerful one, actually. And once you get to understand the basics, it's very, very equipped to build GUI and functionalities within the QML environment. So for the GUI of a QField plugin, developers would use Qt quick items, and we'll come back to that in a minute. For QField project plugins, it might be useful to view them as maybe like similar to QGIS Python macros, where those macros will be activated when a project loads and then will be deactivated when a project ends. So although they're not identical, I think it is useful to see them as similar to QGIS macros. For an app-wide plugin, the installation goes through the QField plugin manager, and users can be provided URLs to a zipped plugin, which will then be installed in QField. I will demonstrate that in a second when we look at our first plugin. The plugin manager allows you to enable, disable, configure plugins, obviously uninstall plugin, and provides there the environment is not so dissimilar to QGIS, again, trying to create some similarities between the two applications so that users feel comfortable. Prior to activating a plugin, a permission is requested, and the users are therefore made aware that the plugin is about to be activated and can grant permission, deny permission on a one-time or permanent basis. There, like we really had to think hard how we wanted to do that. I think that because QField run on people's smartphones, there are extra sensitivities around third-party code running, even in the form of a QML, QML plugin within QField. And we wanted to be really explicit and seek permission for users every time a plugin is being activated. I think that this is something that, for security and awareness purposes, this one we will come back to this a little bit later when we look specifically on the developer side of things. For project plugins, it can be as simple as adding one sidecar file to a QGIS project folder, and you have an extra functionality added into QField for the duration of the consumption of the project. It is very often the easiest way to deploy a plugin to users, as they are bundled directly with projects and they do not require any additional step to obtain the plugin itself. So if you have a workflow in QField where somebody imports a project either through USB cable, or a better way would be through QField Cloud, that person will already be able to be served plugins. A pro tip here, it's quite useful to rely on QField Cloud to conduct remote distribution and updates of project plugins to a fleet of QField devices. Using QField Cloud, let's say that you have 10 field users out there which have QField on their phones. You can use the QField Cloud project distribution mechanism to also push these project plugins into those devices and update the plugins, which means that you are not required to either collect the device and do a manual installation or provide a technical instruction that might be difficult for field users to do. You simply add the project plugin into your QField Cloud project, and this will be shipped directly into people's phone. There, a permission will also be asked prior to activating the project plugin. Here, when I said a project sidecar, just to give an example, let's say that I have a QGIS project that's called forestry management.qgz. I would have a forestry management.qml, which would be the file that QField would use to enable the plugin, and where you would host your additional functionalities and GUI that you want with that specific project. Now, I will quickly go through a couple of plugins that I think do a good job at demonstrating the plugin framework and how it can be used. And the first one is a weather plugin, and I will actually demonstrate how to install that plugin so that people can actually do that by themselves. So here, we have this QField plugin topics on GitHub, where you can find actually all of the most of the publicly available plugins, where people use this topic tag here to add to the list. So the one that we are going to look first is QField weather forecast. So I will go here, go to this release where I will be provided with a zip file, and I can copy, right click, and copy the link. So obviously here you could send the link through your favorite messenger to a field user, through Signal, through Facebook Messenger, Telegram, etc. And then the person in QField would simply go through the plugin manager to install it. So to do so, the plugin manager is found in the QField settings. I hope that the font size is okay. Let me try to make it a little bit bigger. Yes. So there, under the user interface, there is Manage Plugin, and this gives you your plugin manager with a list of available plugin. Obviously, here I have a few already installed, and there is at the bottom, there is Install Plugin from URL. I can click here. I can paste the zip file, the zip plugin, click on OK, and the plugin will be installed. And then I will be asked, hey, do you want to grant the permission to weather forecast plugin to load? I will say yes and remember my choice. And now when I go back to a project manager, if internet wants to participate with me, oh my God, I think it's because I do not have a valid position on this computer. But if you see here, there is a new button where you would actually see the weather if I was showing that to you with a valid latitude, longitude, weather based on the positioning of your device. It's a shame that I don't have a position, I'm sorry. But so this, going back to the slideshow, sorry, yes. So the plugin here does a nice thing, which is it leverages the positioning object that QField has to collect your GNSS position, either through your phone, a GNSS, or an external higher resolution GNSS device to provide you with information. One of the magic that's happening under the hood is that the plugin uses an XML HTTP request to contact the weather website service to get the information. And so already simply using this XML HTTP request, we can see that we have access to a wide range of web services out of the box without the need to do much, which is quite exciting. Another plugin, the OSRM routing plugin. This one I will activate going into settings, manage plugin. I already have it installed. I will activate it. And this plugin adds actions on the right-click menu of the map canvas that allows you to set up a beginning and endpoint for a route, and then you will be given a route. I don't know if you guys can see it. It is in purple here. You will be given a route from one point to the other, and you can also add intermediary points, and then you will get an OSR route provided by OSRM routing API, again using an XML HTTP request. As you can see also, I'm doing here, the plugin is doing some nice georeference geometry overlays. So plugins can overlay markers, lines, polygons. Their sky is the limit. You can consume and display on top of your map canvas as much georeference information as you want. Another plugin that is already available. Again, all of these plugins can be installed today by going in the QField plugin topics page. So another plugin is it's a functionality here. It's the integration of searches into this search bar here at the very top that QField has had for a long time. Under the hood, this search bar is actually using the same classes as the QGIS locator on the bottom left side of your QGIS main window. And since QField 3.5, we added a set of APIs for plugins to integrate searches into the search bar. So for example, here I have an OpenStreetMap nominatim search, which I can trigger using the OSM prefix. And then I will say, let's say, restaurant in Bangkok, Thailand. And it will give me a list of matching searches based on the OSM nominatim service. As you can see, we can not only obviously if we click on the item, we will pan to the location, but we can also use plugins can add additional actions for each result. So in this case, we have a secondary action, which is setting that location as a destination so that we can navigate to the destination. And because we are very, very often on smartphone devices, why not adding an action to actually call a search result when a phone number is available in the metadata of that location? That's like super, super, super interesting to be able to, as a developer, to be able to take these new platforms where it's not desktop, but we will have plenty of people with their smartphones. We have plenty of people with their tablets that have an array of functionalities like calls, like sensors that allow us to do completely different functionalities with plugins than you would have on like a desktop. So that's super interesting. The next example is an interesting one for two reasons. One is it's not a plugin that I did, so I was happy to see, hey, there's a new developer out there doing plugins. And also, it is a plugin that demonstrates to me one of the like really, really nice ways in which plugins can like break from the normal user experience into like brand new territories. So this plugin actually uses your device microphone to allow you to digitize feature attributes using your voice. And so I will give you there is a small example here, which there is no audio, but that you will see. So we basically state the layer that we want to add a point to using our voice. We talk to our phone, and then we use the attribute name, space, whatever we want to say there. And then we have semicolon as delimiter, which can be customized, but out of like a few taps and our own voices, we just added a new feature with attributes that we dictated to our phone into a QGIS project in QField. It is just like the possibilities are endless here. This is a great example of that point. So this was a super brief fly over what is possible. I'm going to give a couple of tips for potential developers, either people that are here today or people that will see the video in the coming weeks and months. So, first is Qt as a good, simple tutorial on their documentation website that does a good walkthrough. What is QML? What is a QML scene? What is a QML item? That is a very good starting point to be able to develop QML plugins. Then QField also has on its documentation page a plugins reference page, which I also highly recommend. Um, it is very, very technical, so it's mostly a code snippet, but it gives you a good, like a bare bone example of like, okay, this is how you create the most simple of plugin. This is how you would create a zip plugin, etc. There are other useful tips to get you started. A note on that for developers, potential developers of QField plugins. Um, these documentation pages are on GitHub, and we are more than happy to receive additional changes, additional section to any of these pages. So if somebody develops a plugin and realizes that the page would really benefit from additional basic information, we would welcome that. Here in the iFace interface, again, this is another example of how we have tried to create some parallels with QGIS to make starting to write plugins a little bit easier, or at least a little bit more intuitive, coming from the QGIS world. So we have an iFace map canvas to access to the map canvas and the map settings. We have additional functions to be able to locate elements within the QField main scene, etc. So this is a very, very good page to use to try and get your bearings. On top of that, there is a QField template plugin repository that, again, like does a very, very, very simple plugin that will add a button, and if you press on the button, it will say like your current position is this, that. This is another good way to start learning. Also, QField, as I said at the very beginning, QField is available on Windows and Linux. Actually, this is what I was using to make the demonstration just now. It's a very, like, installing QField on Windows or Linux also helps development quite a lot, obviously. And if you are a developer, you do not need to install a plugin via URL. That would be a nightmare. You can actually manually build a new plugin from scratch by adding a folder in QField plugins folder on your computer. And to access this location, you simply click on the main menu, click on the three-dot menu, go to About QField, and you will see the QField app directory here. This is a clickable link, and it will open the location where we store a bunch of configuration files, additional projection files, fonts, base map, aka localized paths, and plugins. And in plugins here, you have all of the plugins that we just looked at. For example, if I go to the QField OSRM plugin, and then we have our main QML file, which is what we use to activate the plugin, as well as other elements, SVGs, etc. So you can actually, you could simply take this and then rename it to QField second plugin, and then you would have a new plugin that would appear in your plugin manager with that code. So one way to begin is to download the QField template and then unzip that into a brand new folder in your plugins directory, which you can find by clicking on this hyperlink here, and then you are set to go to do some testing. You can very easily go in settings. Oh, actually, sorry to mention, yes, QField has a plugin reloader plugin. So just like QGIS, it's a super helpful plugin that allows for developers to, if I go here, QField plugin reloader. So same principle as QGIS, as QGIS. You have a mechanism to reload your plugin as you are developing your plugin without the need to close, deactivate, reactivate the plugin, or even close and reopen QField entirely. So that's a nice tool for a developer here. Now, one warning, documentation of QField plugins remain a work in progress. I think that it is quite nice to have already like a nice bank of plugins that demonstrate a bunch of new functionalities that can be done, search bar integration, web API access, etc. But it is not enough. We are fully aware of that, and at the moment, when you want to drill down into what are the available items to me that QField provide and the properties, what are functions that I can use, you have to do manual searching into the source code, or by going, for example, if I go on the QGIS documentation, I can get hints of what is available in QML. For example, this QGIS vector layer is available in QML. And if you see here, there are Q invocable. All of that means that you can invoke these functions inside the QML environment, meaning inside a QField plugin. And then if you go down after signal, you will see there is a properties section here that identifies properties, dynamic properties attached to this class, which can be accessed in QML. Now, it's very raw. We have a lot to improve on that front. And I hope that in the coming months there are already some things planned, better documentation. So I do hope that in the coming months we are in a better position. But for the time being, unfortunately, I can only give you these tips as a mean to get additional information, which is not ideal. I fully appreciate that. Another tip on that front, another very raw yet still useful way to learn about what is possible to do in a plugin environment. If you guys go in the QField source repository, if you go into QField core, into the utilities folder, all of these classes are available for you within your plugin environment. So say that I go in geometry utils. If I look at the header, I will get all of the invocable functions. So create a point from an XYZ, or create from a WKT string, creating a geometry. I can hear everybody screaming, this is not very friendly, and I agree. It is not friendly, but it is what we have at the moment. And again, I think what is most useful at the moment is to look at plugin examples that are already published on GitHub, really. So that was a fair warning. That doubles a little bit as an apology, but nevertheless, I think that with these tips, it's possible for developers to really dig in and start to amaze us all with really cool plugins. We QField ship by default additional modules, QML modules from Qt that can be used for plugins. So we have WebSocket. So for people who know that, it's a nice little way to do bidirectional communication. Sorry, across multiple clients and servers. We have the whole quick 3D environment, so people can do really cool 3D overlays on top of the map canvas. Sorry. So, for example, a 3D compass or all sorts of other 3D visualization can be made through the plugin. We have charts, so it's possible to do charts, overlays. And then we also have, we ship with all of the sensors module that QML has to offer. So you can use your smartphone device and then maybe use the magnetometer sensor or the gyro sensor and be able to do all sorts of cool plugins out of that. So I'm really looking forward to somebody doing the moving marble on the screen where you rotate your phone to try and get the marble to the endpoint. This can be done in QField. It's amazing. So the sensor is quite nice too. Now for the last words, as I said earlier, for both users and developers at the moment, this github.com/topics/QField plugin is essentially the hub to reach available plugins. We are thinking about pushing this forward and having a repository, a little bit like QGIS, that would make things a lot easier. For example, in-app installation of plugin. We're just proceeding with a lot of caution there on the security front. We just want to make sure that we do the right thing and that we are not opening people's smartphones to vulnerabilities. But so for the time being, we GitHub is the hub for these plugins, and we rely on people's judgment to know whether a given GitHub repository is malicious or not. If you are developing a plugin on your own, please use this QField plugin topic to be made visible in that list. So the list is growing. The list is growing. There are a couple of non-open GIS. For example, this is a Chinese user that integrated a Chinese navigation service into QField. Super cool. Marco has done a really fantastic Ask AI plugin that allows us to prompt a couple of AIs, ChatGPT and Claude, from QField itself directly. So if you are writing a plugin, please tag it with this topic so that we are made aware, and also users that we know of and that we meet in these types of events can easily see the plugins that you've made. If you want to know more, you can always contact me. I'm offering my OpenGIS work email here. I'm reachable. I hope that I'm easy to approach, and I'm really passionate about QField. So if you put QField in the subject line, you can expect me to reply quite quickly. Also, our GitHub, our QField GitHub repository can be used to, at the moment, to file issues with plugin or maybe enhancement requests. Like we had the person recently, a few days ago, who said, "Oh, I would like to have this additional QML module. Can you ship it by default?" So we are open to discussing plugin, and Obviously, if there are core improvement to QField that are needed to make plugins even better, we welcome those too. So I believe that this is it for me. I wanted to last 40 minutes, so I think I did relatively okay on that front. I don't know if anybody has questions in the number of users that are on the live stream. If not,
Uh,
I'm looking forward to see you guys on GitHub or in my inbox.
so thank you so much, Matthew, for the presentation. So many great features that we look forward to seeing and using as well. So far, there are no questions on the live chat, and I don't know if there's anyone who
I
has
have a quick
questions.
question for Mathieu. Mathieu,
Yes.
maybe you covered it, but can you run the QML plugin on QGIS desktop without using QField, or do you need to have I guess all those APIs you showed there told me you need to have QField too.
Yeah. So, I mean, the short answer is no. The longer answer is actually sometimes, because, for example, when you have the attribute form, there is a thing called the QML widget.
Mm-hmm.
And there you can run some QML code. And one of the nice things that I do like about this QField plugin framework is that in doing in developing the plugin, we pushed a bunch of QML specific improvements into QGIS, the upstream QGIS project too. So it, like, the whole ecosystem benefits from it. And I do see a future where QGIS could have like QML language plugins. Maybe not today, but
That was going to be my
it's
next question. Yeah, yeah.
it would not be difficult at all. It would be a commitment, but that would be obviously very, very interesting because of like the kind of cross-platform, cross-app beauty of it all.
But you'd lose out on the rich Python ecosystem of libraries, which I guess QML doesn't have quite as many
Yes.
of these libraries, right?
Yeah, you are right. Like, what you gain is a bunch of JavaScript libraries that can be imported as part of your
Mm-hmm.
plugin. There's also JavaScript workers. I can't remember if I'm using the right technical name, but like QML allows you to run some JavaScript workers to do intense computation in the background. And so, like, the JavaScript engine itself is, I would say, like maybe a decade old, but you still can run a bunch of JavaScript libraries directly within QML, which is very nice. But yeah, we cannot compare that to the power of Python. Like, one of the things that we considered when we developed the plugin framework was, again, like this obsession about security and the fact that we are talking about like very personal devices when we're looking at a smartphone. Like, a Python framework was opening the door to a lot of security issues, and like the sandboxing aspect of things would have been a big challenge. Whereas with QML, like, Qt already does a good job at sandboxing and making sure that you stay within the confines of what the user expects. So that was one of the few reasons that got us to go down the QML JavaScript road.
Very nice. Well, thank you for sharing all the amazing work you've done, and I'm looking forward to going to try it out myself. I haven't had to play with it yet, so it's very exciting to see what you've done.
Yeah, no, I think I was talking to you about that a few days ago. For me, one of the things that I find super exciting is like we really like provide people with, like, in theory, like, somebody could develop a whole like servicing component to a company saying like, hey, if you need the functionality in QField, we can develop the plugin for you. So I'm quite interested to see where that will lead us in terms of new players, new users, new developers coming into the QField ecosystem. That that excites me a lot. I mean, obviously, like here at OpenGIS, we'll always be more than happy to provide those services. But it's also this idea of like all of this extra freedom that suddenly appears for other people to come
Creates
in.
an ecosystem.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Very nice.
We have a question on the chat, and Martha's asking if can you add the topic link to the documentation? And then we have another question in the live chat. Nelson is asking, is it possible to load a special file with QML plugin?
So at the moment, direct file access is limited to map layer data providers. So let's say that you have, I don't know, like a CSV or a JSON or a shapefile or a geo package. You will be able to open that using a vector layer class object, but we do not have yet the ability to open a file locally. This is something that the QML environment does not enable by default for security reasons. And so, yeah, this is something that is at the moment a bit of an uncertain path for us if and when we will do that. But as a workaround, like using the QGIS classes to read a CSV or a JSON or a geo package, or even like a raw SQLite database works very, very well.
All right, thank you for that. I don't see any further questions. I don't know if anyone on the meeting has any questions. If not, thank you again, Mathieu, for giving us this great presentation. And I think everyone can see our contact details, and if they have any questions, they can ask. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for everybody to have given me this time to present one of my passion projects. Thank you, guys.
Please come back again soon.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you.
Thanks. So we have one more session in 15 minutes or so, which is the QGIS release party. Mathieu, if you want to come and join us there as well, if you want to. We're just going to have an informal hangout and look at some of the new features that came in 3.42. So it'll be just an informal session where we just look through the changelog and play with cool new stuff that arrived in the latest release.
That's great. It is like 10 p.m. Where I live, so
no
I might watch the video tomorrow.
No problem. But anybody else watching or in the room is welcome to join there as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Cheers, guys.
Thank
Thank you for the
you.
time.
Okay, then. Thanks.